Joining the Observer on the air live couldn't be easier. First, visit bit.ly/obguest. Once you click on that, you'll wind up on this screen. Then, you'll have to choose the webcam that you want to use. You can see there's a list of them here. And once you choose the right webcam, you'll then have to choose the microphone that you want to use. It's all very simple. Then type in your name where it says your name here. And once you have finished typing your name, click the join button. Then you'll be in the queue to be on the air. It's that easy.
Hi again, everybody. It's Kevin Knessa coming to you from the newsroom of The Observer and TheObserver.com on this, the 26th day of March in the year 2024. Sure hope you're enjoying your Tuesday, no matter where it is you are in the country. And as you do each and every Tuesday, you welcome me into your homes so that I might bring you this week's news. But before we get to all of this week's newspaper stuff, there are a bunch of things that I need to get to first, including this. We will be closing the Observer's office on Friday in observance of Good Friday. So that means that after Thursday, you won't be able to submit any classifieds until Monday, but we will reopen Easter Monday at 10 a.m., but we'll be closing at 2 o'clock on Easter Monday instead of the normal 3 o'clock Monday closure. So if anybody has anything that they need to get to us classified-wise, things of that nature, we won't be here on Friday, but we will be back on Monday until 2 p.m. And once you pick up this week's edition of The Observer, you're going to see this form in the paper. There are 8 hidden eggs in advertisements throughout the newspaper this week, and one lucky winner will get a $100 gift certificate to one of the participating advertisers. All you have to do is find those 8 eggs and list them, the name of the business and the page number where you found them, and drop them off here at the Observer's office. You can also email the entries as well, because sometimes people can't get out here and come to our office. And to do that, just simply send those forms into Lisa@theobserver.com. Again, that's Lisa@theobserver.com, and she will take and put your entry in if you get all 8 of the winners. The last time we did this was for Valentine's Day, I think, and we didn't. A lot of people had trouble finding them, but these ones should be a little bit easier. But just remember one thing: you see on the screen where it says "Find Me," that's the egg you're looking for. There could be other eggs in the paper somewhere, but the only one we're concerned about is the one that says the type of egg that is there, where it says "Find Me." So don't forget that that's what you're looking for when you send in your entries. Now on the screen it says the winner will be announced April 3rd. We're going to extend that to April 10th, 1 week after that. And before we get any further, I want to welcome in our friends Carol Manley and Manny Ventoso, who have appeared in the chat room. There are others who are here, but for those of you who are here, welcome to you as well. Carol, hope you're well. Same Manny. I hope everything is well for both of you. A little chilliness in the air today. Now, before we move on to this week's newspaper, I'm going to switch this over to what happened this morning in Baltimore. And I don't know how many of you have seen this, but if you happen to have slept through this morning, what you're looking at right now is a video from the port of Baltimore in Maryland. And you see this ship come in. And take a look at the ship as it came in. You may have just noticed it, but all the lights just went out in this ship. And but you can see it's still moving. And unfortunately, what happens afterwards is just mind-boggling. I saw it first thing this morning when I woke up. It was about 5:55 when I woke up and I saw this. But the damage that this does is like nothing I don't think we've ever seen. At least it's been a long, long time since this happened. But you'll see the lights are still out, but they're going to pop back on in a minute or so, or a few seconds rather, and then go out again. But you see how the boat is drifting. Now, from what I understand from the latest news reports, is that the pilot, they call him a pilot of the ship, sent out a mayday, and fortunately, I don't know how, they were able to stop traffic on both sides of the bridge. You see right now there's one vehicle that's moving right now, but there's others that are on the bridge that have those flashing lights, and apparently that was a construction company that was charged with doing pothole repairs on this bridge. And it's the Key Bridge, the Francis Scott Key Bridge. And I don't want to say necessarily fortunately there were only about 4 or 5 vehicles on the bridge, but you'll see there's some 18-wheelers on it right now, and they're going to get off the bridge just in the nick of time before this gigantic cargo ship crashes into one of those moorings, or whatever you call them, the right there. You see where it's heading, right for it. And you may notice right now the lights just came back on. I mean, this is just spooky and as horrifying as you're going to see anything. But just watch, in a few seconds, it's going to hit the pillar, and the whole thing is going to come crumbling down. But again, as this is all happening, you still see there's another 18-wheeler that's dead center in that bridge, on that bridge right now. And the fact that it was able, that so many of them were able to cross and then get over it, was just pure luck. I mean, it was absolutely pure luck that this particular one right here that you see right now toward the left of the screen was able to get off this entire thing. But it's gonna happen in a few seconds when this eventually hits the side of the bridge. So I'm going to just be quiet in case anybody hasn't seen it yet. There is no audio to this, so keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that this happened at about 1:30 this morning Eastern Time in the city of Baltimore. There's a couple of other lorry trucks that are just about to get off the bridge too, just in the nick of time. You'll know that it's about to happen when you see where the ship is. Again, it's about a quarter of the way on the left. You'll start to see water splashing in the air, and that's when you know that it's about to happen. But also, if you look to the center of the span, you'll also see and watch as the trucks that are on the bridge just start plummeting right into the river, which is just a horrifying sight. Here it comes. You see some sparks coming too, as I guess it's metal on metal. You see it right here on the right hand side. Just truly devastating. And Carol Manley said it reminds her of the bridge collapse in Minnesota several years ago. I completely forgot about that horrible situation in Minnesota a couple of years ago. Carol, you're absolutely right. That was horrifying as well. That was a highway, I believe, and this right into the river. And from what I've been able to ascertain so far today, they're saying that 2 people were pulled out of the water, but there are 6 people who are still unaccounted for. Now, that could have changed in the last 20 minutes, because that's when I turned off. I was watching WBAL in Baltimore. Their local broadcasts are always better than the national broadcasts at a time like this. And they were saying that they were still searching for 6 more people, and that they were apparently inside those trucks that you saw with the orange and yellow lights on top of them that plummeted into the river. But if they're able to find anybody alive, I think that in itself would be a miracle now, considering it's just about 12 hours since all of this happened. But a horrible situation. but at least 2 people have been rescued up to this point, and I can't imagine what this is going to do to commerce in that area, because thousands of 20,000 trucks use it every day, from what I seem to remember. And what they were, what's crazy about it is that for many vehicles is the only way to get from north to south, because the bridges, the tunnels in that area, for the Fort McHenry tunnel, I think, is one of them, and a couple of others, those cannot take any vehicles that have explosives in them for obvious reasons. And so now all of them will have to come up with an alternate way to get from north to south in the United States, and that's not going to be a pretty proposition. I can't even imagine how long it's going to take to rebuild something like that. But we saw it. Michelle was reminding me this morning about another similar incident that happened in Philadelphia just a couple of months ago, and they were able to rebuild that stretch miraculously in a couple of weeks. So we will see what comes of that. But that was this morning in the city of Baltimore in the state of Maryland. Now, this week's edition of The Observer is up on the screen, and you see the headline, One Elk of a Woman, and this is a little bit of a biography about Melanie Pasquarelli. If you've known Melanie Pasquarelli, you know that she is involved in a lot of things in the town of Kearney, and she is most noted, I would say, for her work with the Great Duck Race that you see each and every year over on Belgrove Drive by the American Legion and the VFW. And Melanie was recently elected to become the exalted ruler of the Kearney branch of the Elks. And I've known Melanie for many, many years, and I know she is a very, very hard worker. And as Carol, our friend, said in the chat room, it was a very well-deserved honor for Melanie. And she won her election running away. I think she had an opponent, believe it or not. I don't know why anybody would ever decide to run against Melanie, because that's a foolish maneuver right there. But she won, and she now takes over a lodge that is extremely active. It's pretty remarkable, because Belleville and Kearney work together, and Harrison and East Newark together. And you talk about some powerhouses between 2 Elks lodges, and Melanie is going to do a phenomenal job. I am certain of that for the people of Kearney and Belleville, because Belleville joined not too long ago. They had to close their lodge down, and they joined forces with the Kearney Lodge. So congratulations to Melanie, her husband Chris, and everybody over at the Kearney Elks Lodge for her victory, and for all the others who took office a couple of weeks ago on Sunday. Now, this is because of a tragic event, but it's great news that the Kearney Branch Library will be renamed for Christine Jablonski, who died tragically a couple of weeks ago on the ski slopes out in Utah. The mayor was speaking at a council meeting last week, and she announced it at the meeting that she had talked to Josh Humphrey, who is the longtime director of the Kearney Library, and they wanted to do something to remember her and the tragic loss that she brought to this community. So later on coming up this summer, when Jeff is around and Christine's 2 sons, Eli and Nathaniel, are back in New Jersey from school break in the summer, there will be a special ceremony as they rename or honor her with that at the Branch Library on Kearney Avenue. So from a tragedy comes a beautiful gesture, one that I know I was excited to see and hear when Carol Jean Doyle, the mayor, mentioned it last week at the council meeting. Now, at that same meeting, a lot of stuff happened at that council meeting last week. Chief King explained what happened at that whole mess at Forest Junction condos a couple of weekends ago. And this is one of the 2 guys who got arrested. And what is absolutely remarkable about this, and make no mistake, this is not meant to be funny, this guy was involved in another case where he was convicted of stealing high-end cars in Bergen County. We're talking like Bentleys and Mercedes-Benzes and things of that, BMWs. He was sentenced to 18 months in prison, did his time, was released, and was one of the two people who were arrested in this case at Forest Junction. There was a chase. They were trying to rob the victim, and they wound up crashing into the condos, causing so much damage that they had to evacuate the residents, who are not allowed to go back in there until the repairs are made because the building was deemed too unsturdy for habitation. But I think the thing that was so ridiculous about this entire case was this was a guy who was back in trouble with the law once again, who could have killed many people driving at high rates of speed along Davis Avenue in Kearny in a chase that started in Elizabeth. He gets to Kearny, crashes in, does all this damage, gets arrested. One of the great parts of this arrest was that he was found in the meadows hiding out with his cohort by use of a Kearny Police Department drone. So those drones are really coming in handy at times when they're needed. But then, a couple of days later, they did a search on the guy's name, and he was released from custody from the Hudson County Jail. A judge ordered his release. What blows my mind is that in bail reform, they say that there are point systems that are used, a number of points that a person has that determine whether or not they are granted bail or if they're released on their own recognizance, etc., etc. And in this particular case, this guy who did 18 months in a massive stolen vehicle scheme, which netted over $1 million in proceeds, was released from the Hudson County Jail just 2 days after he was driving through the streets of Kearny, making a complete and utter mess and nearly killing people along the way. So you'll never make sense. It'll never make sense how any of this happens, but that's exactly what happened. That guy you see there is out on the streets right now. His cohort was remanded and has not yet been released. That may have changed since now, but the last I could tell, he was still behind bars at the Hudson County Jail in South Kearny. There was another tragic crash on the Newark Jersey City Turnpike that very same weekend, and as it turns out, 2 people are now dead. One is a teacher. She taught in the city of Passaic, and her husband also died as well. I don't have their names. I apologize that I don't, and we don't have that part in the newspaper this week, but we got I got an alert on my phone yesterday, and it said that the woman who was originally killed was a teacher in the Passaic school system, and that her husband had died as well. So this was a very apparently violent crash on the Newark Jersey City Turnpike over by the Walmart area, I suppose. But there were 3 others who were injured, and I don't know what their conditions are right now. There hasn't been any update, but the truth of the matter is this poor woman who died, her husband died as well a couple of days later. So you can imagine what that scene must have been like for Rich Pulowski, who had to be one of the investigators from the Traffic Bureau who was on the scene that day. Just horrific sight, no doubt. Also on that page, Mayor Carol Jean Doyle was supposed to be honored in 2020 by the Kearny Police Department's PBA number 21. Mina Claudius, the president of the union, says. But the problem was, COVID happened. And so finally, 4 years later, the PBA has recognized Mayor Doyle for her service to the police department. She's done many things for everybody, but the police department in particular. And Mina and the chief, George King, got together and surprised her at the council meeting on Tuesday last, 1 week ago today, and she was finally given that proclamation and plaque that was supposed to go to her in 2020, but better late than never indeed when all is said and done. And now, I'm not sure where to go with this, because there are so many people who are heated about this. There are so many people who are not so heated about this. Some people have been saying they can't believe that the town of Kearney rejected giving another pilot to Ed Russo for all the great things that he's done in Kearney. And so I'm just going to kind of throw this out there in case you don't know yet. And slept for the last 168 hours. Last week, the Kearney Town Council voted 5-4 against giving developer Ed Russo a new pilot. A pilot is a payment in lieu of taxes. When he got up to speak, Russo, and you got to keep something else in mind. This was all happening toward the end of a 5.5-hour meeting. It was a long night last Tuesday. But when all was said and done, the council voted 5-4 against giving Russo another break. It was basically what it is, a break. And he spoke a lot about how he has donated almost $7 million in pilots and other things, in improvements to Passaic Avenue, to the Sanford Avenue area, and a whole bunch of other things that he's done over the years. But then at the very end, he did not get this pilot. So what happens next is anybody's guess. My supposition with something like this is that we haven't heard the end of it. I'm sure Russo is not going to just sit back and take this lightly. This was already in litigation, this case, and now it's only going to be more negotiations, I'm sure, where they may have to decide on giving him a pilot that isn't as long as it was originally requested, 20 years, I believe it was. Others have been 30. But there's no way he's going to just let go of this. But as of now, with that 5-4 vote, the property at 55 Passaic Avenue will not be developed until there's more negotiation and they eventually come up with a plan on what to do there. And I'm sure he did not, I could say this, he walked out at the end of this meeting, which was about 12:30 in the morning, and not very pleased, for sure. But voting against the pilot were Mayor Carol Jean Doyle, and then Stat Theodoropoulos, George Zapata, and also Dennis Solano and Renato da Silva. Voting for it, it was a very interesting dichotomy on who voted for this. It was not the way you would expect it to go. It was Eileen Eckel and Rich Kanopka, along with Jerry Facito and Mary Trine DeCastro. So by the 5-4 vote, this is what happened. What was very interesting, though, was that, I think they wanted to make it. I think some people actually thought that Carol Jean Doyle was actually going to vote in favor of this, even though she had said staunchly and vehemently that she would not vote for another pilot. She was very clear about that as she campaigned for mayor, as she campaigned the last time for council, and they thought, I think, here's what we'll do. We'll split the vote 4-4, and then she'll be the one to blame if this passes. Well, it didn't. It didn't, because sometimes people just don't think very well. And there was no way in God's creation that she was going to vote in favor of this. And I'm telling you this right now. If the vote had been 8-0 by the time it got to Carol Jean Doyle on the dais, she still would have voted no at 8-0. She would not have given one of those courtesy votes of saying, all right, I'll just vote for it so we can do it for the sake of unanimity. No, she was not going to, because a lot of people in her experience had told her they didn't want it. They didn't want it. So some of the geniuses thought that they were doing something kind of cute and funny, putting the onus on her. The last laugh was not on her one bit. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting. Ed Russo's got a lot of decisions to make, and we'll see what he winds up doing. But I don't think we have heard the end of this as yet. And believe it or not, that's going to do it for this edition of the Observer Live. But before we get there, I want to once again ask and thank. First of all, I want to thank everybody who has already done this. But we still need to get our numbers up on our YouTube page. You can get to it at youtube.com/theobservernj. We need you to subscribe. We have to get that number over 1,000. We're approaching 700. thanks to the efforts of people like Melanie Ryan and John O'Connor, who have been pushing us left and right. But for some reason, people just don't want to do it. As soon as we get to 1,000, we can do more things remotely, and we'll be able to expand on things that we can do with the platform. But until we get to that 1,000 number, we're pretty much stuck in the mud. So if you can, it takes 5 seconds. Go on over to youtube.com/theobservernj and take that few seconds and hit the subscribe button. You will be doing us a humongous favor. And again, we will be back 1 week from today, which will be the Tuesday of Easter week. And to everybody out there who celebrates, I hope you all have a phenomenal and wonderful Easter on Sunday. And of course, this is Holy Week, a big week in the Christian church. In fact, yesterday I was watching the Chrism Mass from the Cathedral Basilica of the Sacred Heart. Our Carney's own Father Joe Mancini was front and center with Cardinal Tobin yesterday. He even had a couple of funny lines that you could hear under his breath. So if you are so inclined, I hope everybody has a good and safe Holy Week as well, because this is this is the most important week in the Christian church. There's no week that's more important than celebrating the resurrection of Jesus. So I hope you will all enjoy it, and if you are so inclined, head on over to your churches for your worship, whether it's Easter Sunday, Good Friday, the Passion of Jesus, the commemoration of the Lord's Supper on Holy Thursday, or whatever it is that you are inclined to do. But enjoy it no matter where you are, and do it all safely. So from the newsroom of The Observer and TheObserver.com, it's Kevin Canessa signing off for now. We will see you back here in a week, or if anything happens during the course of the next week, we will join you live from there. Happy Easter, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.